Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Al coming to you once again. And folks, today I want to talk about all the Brooklyn defunct movie theaters that were there years ago that aren't there anymore. So let's take a walk down memory lane. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. And please let me know, which ones did you go to? What special memories do you have of them? Firstly, before that, I'm here in Celebration, Florida. And I figured what better place to do a video about defunct movie theaters than to stand in front of one right now. So right behind me, that's the Celebration Movie Theater that was in business for a couple of years and just didn't have enough business and went out of business. So I'm starting with that one. So folks, stay tuned for an awesome video. Hope you have some fun. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a picture of how it looks now and what it looked like then, and talk a little bit about each one, give a little history of each one, and maybe a memory about each one. So stand by. Hope you enjoy it. All right, so Brooklyn has many defunct movie theaters. You know, back in the day, most of those theaters were vaudeville theaters. That's why they were so big. So, of course, as years went on, a lot of them became multiplexes. So let's start off with the theater on 86th Street called the Dyker Theater. Now, this theater is probably one of the most beautiful theaters out of all the vaudeville theaters. Right now, the theater is currently a Modell's. But if you go into that Modell's, it's kind of sad too. I mean, going in there, sometimes I mention it to some of the folks working there. Not that it's their fault. I mean, they're really young. They don't remember. But if you look up at the ceilings are beautiful. The ceilings were kept from the original theater. And if you look up on that ceiling, you'll find the most beautiful murals ever. I mean, most of these other theaters, that kind of stuff didn't survive. But if you're going over there on 86th Street between like 4th and 5th Avenue, you're going to see amazing murals in the Modell's. So my favorite memory of that theater was, I remember going to see the movie Hard Times with Charles Bronson. We didn't go to that one too often, but every so often we would go to that theater. And so that's my memory of the Dyker Theater on 86th Street. The next one I want to talk about is the Beverly Theater on Church Avenue. That one I went to pretty frequently because I grew up in Park Slope, Brooklyn. So obviously the F train was right there. So 2 stops from 15th Street down to Church Avenue, and we were at the Beverly movie theater. That movie theater, what I can think of about that movie theater is going to see lots of movies like Going in Style with George Burns, Star Wars, which was a mega movie, Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill. So also Buzzarama was right there, so you can kind of do a lot of stuff. We could also walk to the theater, which we did very often. So the Beverly Theater on Church Avenue. Next up, a very interesting theater was the Walker Theater. And the Walker Theater was on 18th Avenue. And this was probably my favorite theater out of all the old theaters that closed. And the reason being was that they used to do a lot of festivals at that theater, if you remember. I remember, and festivals meaning like, for one price, you got to see a lot of movies which are of the same genre. Now, my favorite one was the Planet of the Apes that they put on, because I remember going there with my mom, and we went into that theater. It had to be like 11 o'clock in the morning, and we came out, it was about 7, 8 o'clock at night, because they showed all the Planet of the Apes movies. If you remember, there was quite a few of the Planet of the Apes movies. You had the first one, Planet of the Apes, and I'm not remembering the order correctly probably, but you had Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which I think was the second one, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. And I tell you, when I look back, of course my mom isn't around anymore, neither is my dad, but I think back to like when I became a parent myself, you often thought back to things like that your parents did for you, because I just loved Planet of the Apes back in those days, and kind of still do. And that was the first movie that really did a major merchandise tie-in. So there's a little information about the movie theater down there. And the next movie that I'd like to talk about is the Fort Wayne Theater, and the Fort Wayne Theater is on Fort Hamilton Parkway, and that's currently a supermarket. It's a Chinese supermarket. And the Fort Wayne Theater, what I remember seeing about that theater was, I remember going to see all the Naked Gun movies in that theater. That was kind of, you go to that theater, maybe we'd stop off at White Castle on the way back. But I remember what stands out for that is going to see all the Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen. So they have that theater. So what's next? Let's see. Moving over to Flatbush, the RKO Theater, the Kenmore Theater, which was on Church Avenue, and right around, I used to bowl around there at Diplomat Lanes. And the RKO Theater, the Kenmore Theater, what I remember most about that theater was the outside of it. It still had the old-fashioned exterior in terms of, like, back in the day, a lot of these theaters had a lot of bright lights, and the Kenmore Theater retained that up until toward the end. So if you went there at night, you had all these, like, it was like kind of like going to Broadway, that same kind of effect. We have those singular light bulbs, but probably hundreds of them or thousands of them. And in that theater, I remember seeing the movie Foul Play. I believe I saw the movie Taxi Driver in that theater. Went to see a lot of movies in that theater too, because I bowled right around the corner at Diplomat Lanes, and of course Kenmore Lanes was right there too. So we also bowled at that place. So a lot of good memories at the Kenmore Theater as well on Church Avenue. Another one of my favorite theaters, folks, was the Harbour Theater, which I believe now is a racquetball club or a health club. I'm going to check that out. It was that for a long time. But the reason I say that the Harbour Theater was one of my favorite theaters was because it was a nice theater, but one of my favorite movies that ever was made in Brooklyn was Saturday Night Fever. And right near the Harbour Theater was the White Castle, where they filmed all those famous scenes in Saturday Night Fever. And of course it was on 86th Street. So I believe it was 86th Street. It was right near 86th Street, maybe 88th Street or so. Someone out there maybe could help me with that. But the Harbour Theater, we saw Saturday Night Fever in there, and that was fantastic because, the Verrazano Bridge is right near there. Iconic scene from Saturday Night Fever, the White Castle, where when they ate, when they stood up on the tables, Kelly's Tavern, which I think might still be there. So a lot of famous memories of the Harbour Theater. And that closed down, and that became a racquetball club. I don't know what it is now. I'm going to check up on that for you. But a lot of famous memories there too. So let's keep on rolling. Probably another theater that I went to a lot was the theater in Kings Plaza, the Mall of Kings Plaza. That was a double theater, and I remember seeing probably the most iconic movie I saw over there that I still watch today and I still laugh at is Vacation with Chevy Chase, the first Vacation movie. I remember seeing The Color Purple in that theater. It was just, and I remember seeing Blazing Saddles in that theater back in 1974. And seeing Blazing Saddles, folks, in the movies was a trip because, Mel Brooks kind of hits everyone. Mel Brooks is Jewish. He hits everybody in that movie. And to this day, I've never seen people walk out of a theater. I mean, in the scene in the beginning, certain kind of people walked out in the beginning, then other people walked out as we went through. It was 3 separate times that people walked out of that theater because they didn't get the humor. But if you stayed at the theater long enough, I'm half Irish, I'm half Arabic. He hit us too, so it's just like, you had to deal with it. But Kings Plaza, that's probably my memory of Kings Plaza. Also I saw all the Austin Powers movies there as well. So that's a little memory for the Kings Plaza Theater. Lastly, folks, I want to talk about the theater that I'm familiar with, the theater from Park, called it was originally called the Sanders Theater, and then it became the Pavilion Theater, and then it became the Nighthawk Theater. So it's the Nighthawk Theater currently, and really nice theater, folks. It's what's nice about the Nighthawk Theater is that it's an independent theater. More and more as we go on through life, things are becoming just pretty much the same old. You could go to a U8 theater, no knock against U8 theaters, as a for instance, but you could go to a U8 theater and you see, I went to one in Phoenix. It looked just like the one in Brooklyn. So it's nice to go to the Nighthawk Theater because the guy who owns it actually did a retro on it, and he brought back the tin ceilings that were in there. He took off like a lot of the paint and took off the paint off the wood and made it all original. It's a little overpriced, not overpriced, but it's a little pricey, but not that much. It's certainly to see it. I actually have footage of the Nighthawk Theater. Maybe I'll tag it on the back of this. But so many memories of that theater all through, whether it was the Sanders or the Pavilion or the Nighthawk. And the thing of it was, folks, if you guys are Three Stooges fans, the Three Stooges grew up on Cropsey Avenue, not Larry Fine. Larry Fine grew up in Philadelphia, but Shemp and Curly and Moe were all brothers, and they grew up on Cropsey Avenue in Brooklyn, and they played in all of these were all voices over the years, and they played in all of them. They even played in the Prospect Hall, which is the wedding hall, and that was like a vaudeville theater back in the day. So there's a lot of history there, folks. And let me know what movies, what theaters I probably left out. I know there was a lot of theaters that were vaudeville theaters that went out a long time ago. So give me a shout, give me a like, drop me a comment. What theaters did I forget? What memories do you have of them? Because it's really interesting, folks. It's part of our Brooklyn history. So I hope you enjoyed this video, folks. This is Al. I'm in Celebration. And folks, before I go, I want to put in a little plug. We're doing a foundation for my son. We lost our son last August, our only child. I was so close to him. Well, most is that I talked about, a lot of them I went, including the one right behind me in Celebration. We're going to be calling it the Waffles Foundation. Waffles was his nickname. He was a brilliant guitar player, and we're going to be doing a foundation giving out musical instruments to anybody who can't afford them. It's also going to be for suicide prevention. Please subscribe to the channel. Please go on Facebook and like the Waffles Foundation page. As we speak, I'm having a website made up. We have our application is in for a 501(c)(3) number. Thanks to you, our channel, my channel here, just got monetized. And folks, you don't make a lot of money on YouTube. I think I've been monetized like 2 weeks. I'm up to about $15. But whatever money I make, I promise you, is going to be going toward that foundation. And there's a suicide every 40 seconds in our country, folks. It's really a dire situation. So it's just something we want to keep an eye on. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Matt, I miss you. I love you. We're coming up on a year that we lost him. And, you know, having a great memory, folks, which I do, is a blessing, and it's also a curse, because as much as I remember all the wonderful things I did with Matt and all the wonderful stories, and people tell me how blessed I am that I was so close to my child, it's also very painful, because there's pretty much not a step I can take, whether it be Florida or Brooklyn or anywhere, because everything that I do reminds me of him. And you know, it's so funny, because I looked back yesterday and I realized I didn't have any phone messages from him. And the reason for that is because the kid always answered his phone. I mean, we talked so many times during the week. We were so close. And, you know, through craziness, not craziness, but through, you know, he just was in a bad spot and he made a bad decision. And so we're hoping, folks, going forward to help other people not make people not make that same decision. So, folks, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Please drop me a line. I could be reached at the Waffles Foundation at gmail.com or at connection@kindredsoulsofbrooklyn.com. Take care of you, folks. I'll see you in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye. So just a little scene here of the Celebration Theater. I thought maybe you guys would want to see that. This was a great little theater, folks. I remember coming here with Matt, and they had, you know, they had some first-run movies here, but toward the end, you know, we kind of knew that they were going out of business. I mean, you got to realize the population in Celebration is between 9,000 and 15,000, depending on the season. So you just didn't get, you know, a large population coming here. I remember toward the same guy who was selling the tickets to work the snack bar, and you had to wait in between shows. You know, they would clean up the theater. But it was a nice little theater, folks. And so right now, I think there's a church that meets in here, and I think you could rent it out. So if you want to come to Celebration and rent out a movie theater, this might be the one. And of course, it's lit up at night. It's really pretty at night. And this was meant to be like an Art Deco type of theater. So, and here we are, Celebration in the early AM after a grave shift. So take care, folks. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.